cutting the pieces for an insulated Layens hive box. Stands horizontally, not stacks vertical.
You can get these plans for free. It's a Layens hive. If you find something that looks like that, you're at the right place. Horizontalhives.com. I think if you do a Google search, horizontal hives, plans, it'll come up. So all the plans are for free. His books are really good too. But anyway, we're getting off track, Lisa. We're going to make some horizontal hives. And that's kind of what we're working on today, right?
Yeah.
That's our goal?
Yep.
All right.
And then later when it cools off, I'm back up in the sunflower field maintaining it.
Precision.
Last forward.
Is that it?
That's it for plywood.
So the upside of these plans, you'll be pretty impressed. This on that plywood is the largest piece of scrap we've had. I think the other two pieces were half that. And you can get 4 pieces of plywood. 4 pieces of plywood makes 3 hives.
Yes.
Minimal scrap. Pretty cool. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's cool.
So we're just cutting the far end ones with the fence, and then I'm just taking this off and then just going back and forth to do the sides. So we'll take this to set what our max is here. How do you do that sound? That
That's pretty good.
So the Home Depot had a sale on the air compressor and the stapler, the crown stapler. But apparently the same box was a duo. You could either get the brad nailer and or the stapler, and I grabbed the wrong one. Super frustrated, especially since it's a 45-minute drive to get to Home Depot, and then I got to drive back. I need LASIK.
Oh!
Okay, so the good news is I made it back. I don't know that it's bad news, but it's getting darker, and we kind of want to get this done. So we got the right stapler, so that's good news. We went with the cordless, battery-powered Milwaukee, because that's all, everything I have is Milwaukee. So that's probably good, so we don't have to deal with an air hose. So we're going to glue this real quick. That needs a little filling in. See if that helps. Here we go. That feels good. Feels good. It's good. Happy with that. One adjustment at a time. Yeah, it's good. Be a nice addition to what we're doing. So let's go. Shouldn't need too many. That's pretty nice. This one will be insulated, so there will be wool that goes in here as an insulation barrier. Alright, so the next step is we're going to put this wool in here. I don't know quite how to do it, but and some people call it junk wool. I don't know what the proper term is. I don't know that it's junk when it's so valuable. we're just going to line this so they can breathe. Nice wool dispenser.
The generous 1.5 inch of natural wool thoroughly protects the bees from both excessive heat and cold.
Whether you're in heat or whether you're in a hot climate in the Mojave Desert, or if you're in a cold climate in the Antarctic, if we go to extremes, the insulation is equally good.
Okay, so raw sheep wool recommended 7 pounds per hive. All right, so then these are on the outside of all of them. And if there's any overhang, it suggests to sand that area down.
Glue and nail?
Glue and nail. So I got a text from the neighbor.
What neighbor?
The neighbor above us.
Okay.
We're going to a barbecue on Sunday at 5.
Sweet.
To bring dessert or a side dish, whatever we can muster up. All else is always plenty. But we're going to a different neighbor's house.
Hey, I'm just happy they actually invited us.
Yeah. I'm excited.
We're not going to worry about any random little overhang because there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's loud.
You didn't hear that up there?
Yeah.
Is that in between?
Over a little. Now move this finger. There you go.
You come through? Good
Nope.
instruction. You're not fired. Happy?
Yeah.
Same this side of it. We do anything over here? Huh. What do you know? All right, so later that winter, I built about a dozen more of these same hives after the original 3 that we built. So there's a big advantage to experience with anything. So this is the next step. After you do the base, you're going to put these pieces in, glue and staple everything. Make sure that wherever your insulation is, so this is what I'm doing right now is the inside piece. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Any gaps in there, the bees are going to fill in with propolis. So although, yes, you want it as accurate as possible, don't be overstressed about it. The big thing is when I put that next layer on after the insulation, you do not want any gaps, zero gaps. That's going to let moisture, rain, bugs, whatever, get into your insulation, and that's going to ruin the hive. So if you do end up with any gaps, use some wood filler, some caulking, use whatever, get all that stuff sealed up super good. Now, just a quick note, I just put on that 2x4 that you're going to drill in your 3 entrance holes. Make sure that you mark on the outside of the box which end those are on. I had a good probably half dozen that we painted. I didn't drill the holes, and I couldn't tell which end actually had that 2x4 to drill those holes through. So just a little tip for you so you can avoid some of the mistakes that I made during this process. But nothing's perfect, so it all turned out good. So what you see me doing here is I am pre-drilling the holes that those are going to screw in to the other frame on the side. I hope that makes sense. I don't know how else to say it. I don't believe the instructions tell you to do this. I had problems with the wood splitting, so I prefer to pre-drill those holes So when you put the screws in, everything goes together nicely and you don't end up with any splitting of the wood, because then you just need to fill it in with glue and let it sit overnight to dry and just takes longer. So that's one thing that I found that just helped the process go a little bit better. All right, so next up we're going to put the wool on the outside. This is the last bag that I had of the sheep wool. Thankfully, if sheep wool is all you can get, then use it. It's a fine insulation barrier, but when you're putting it on, in our experience anyway, it was just stinky. This weird oily feel to your hands. But side note. So in my perfectionism, I'm going to make sure everything is nice and square here. You would be well advised to make sure that everything is squared up and good. It will save you a lot of time in sanding things down and fixing things later. So I just go slow, try and do the best I can to make things as square as possible, and it seems to pay off. Now, it might be worth noting here, because I don't remember in the instructions if it tells you to, you want to do the sides first and fill those with insulation, put those end pieces on, and then you'll do the front and the back. So, hope that's helpful. And then as you'll see here in just a second, having clamps, different size clamps, will really help out if things don't line up for whatever reason. Being able to pull things together before you staple it down proves to be very helpful. So if you've got some or can borrow some from somebody, well worth your time. And then you're going to just do the opposite ends. You're going to do the front and you'll do the back and just spread that out. Hopefully you can get quite a bit of either wool or llama wool or whatever you choose to use there. I think my recommendation to you is put it in thick. If you're on a super tight budget and you can't, or you only have so much and you need to spread it thin, so be it. However, the thicker you can put it in for better insulation, in my view, is better. And, and that's what I would do. That's what I'm doing here. That looks like, I think we've moved on. Yeah, that's a llama wool. So that's kind of cool. Nice, light, fluffy. It feels good. Super good insulation value. But I guess my point, but aside from just rambling on here, fill it in good and thick. And then comes probably my favorite part of the entire build, putting the end pieces on, the front and back. Now you've got your beehive looking like a completed product before it gets painted. And it just feels super good to get to this point. And again, you're going to see me use this clamp to pull things together, make sure things are nice and tight before I staple it down permanently. Make sure that you're using glue on all of these seams. It will not be as good if you don't use glue. So if you're new to woodworking, just trust me, lots of wool. Keep that wool off from those seams, by the way, when you glue it. That's not going to help seal things up. And boom, finished product. Almost. So next up, after we make sure everything feels good, is to put the entrance holes on the side. This is how I figured out to do it so that they're nice and even. I basically just made a jig. So I've got both the height there and the center mark on where those are going to be. So I'll mark those, and then we're going to drill those holes in. You're going to use a Forstner bit. I believe it's 1.5 inches. Double check the instructions. I'm just going off memory. And make sure that it's angled so that when water comes down and drips down the side, that the water would be forced to come out. So make sure your angle is correct, that any water, anything is going to slide out. It doesn't need to be much, just a little bit. But you definitely want that slope when you drill that in there. Okay, so next up we're going to pop in 4 staples real quick that surround the hole that you just drilled for the entrance for all 3 entrances, and make sure that that stays nice and sealed up. Then after that, I like to sand those down. I don't know a better way to drill those holes so that some of that plywood doesn't pop out of there. Maybe if you put some tape on the back end, that would help. But I'm going to sand those down, and once those are sanded down, I'm going to sand down the edges on the top just to make the lid, help the lid go on a little bit better, and just to make everything nice. You've put so much work into it, you may as well clean things up and give it that finished look and feel. Okay, that's enough of winter. We're going to jump back to the summer just prior, and I'm putting the lid together. And what I'm doing is I'm marking where the 4 ventilation holes are going to go. There's 4 on each side, and you want to make sure and mark what side is up, what side is down, so that when you drill those holes, they're angled correctly so that water isn't dripping inside of your hive. Everything is angled outside. Super important. Come on, baby. So that'll hold it kind of square for us, right? In theory.
That's super cool.
And then we'll drill the holes, and then we'll put the screws in. Doing these slow because we don't want them to crack. Nice and flush. Mm-hmm. Little buttons. Good enough. This fits before we do the glue, so don't remind me, please. So let's add some glue. Got to at least help. Right?
Yep.
This. This side should be fine there. This side, it's going to be there. That nice and square. Go here.
Beehive boxes have been put together and painted, so they're drying. We're now on the lid. So we're putting 1 layer of
Tar paper.
and then the second layer of this building wrap.
So there's the tar paper on the top. Cut just a little bit over the edges. The green stuff that Lisa's going to be responsible for making look good. No pressure.
No pressure.
Hopefully an inch is enough extra.
I think so.
And then you're just going to wrap it like a present, right?
Yep.
It's
Feels good.
looks good.
Ta-da! One lid, waterproofing done.
And that is pretty much it. So you've got your box built, you've got your lid built. I think one thing I would change about what we did on that first one is I would paint the lid first before you put the top on. So you're not having to fight with that house wrap and not getting it painted so everything looks nice. And then other than that, what you see there is Lisa's got a piece of plywood on the top that's just to make sure that no paint gets on the inside. You may notice that box is a little bit different. It's actually a swarm trap, but nonetheless, that's how we paint them. We use there's a paint you can get at Home Depot that is specific for farm animals for painting your barn, and that's the paint that we use. Hopefully it's got less chemicals in it, is kind of the hope. And then your next step is you're going to need to build the frames, wire the frames, put the foundation into the frames. You can go to the description. There's a link in there to go to that video if you want to see how to do that. Next step is to set up your hive on a frame so that it's up off from the ground. That can be as simplistic or as complicated as you'd like it to be. Again, check out the link in the description for how we set those up. I do hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Be sure and leave any comments below if you have any questions. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next video.